thinking that language can be artful and art can be language-like, that we can talk about verbal art, and that, you know, is a very big topic. I think one of the things that I've become really interested in as a linguist working in Central Australia and working with in association with IAD and IAD Press for a long time, you know, stretching back to the 70s, is that it's really interesting to sort of broaden our notion of what language is to beyond just spoken language, beyond noise, to look at other forms of communication. And then when we look at Aboriginal painting and all the different contemporary and traditional forms, I guess we can broaden our notion of what art is about to sort of start thinking of its language-like aspects as well. So I was thinking of how to talk about some meeting point where you have language and art and things meeting in the middle somewhere. I think one of the interesting things about Central Australia and some of the paintings that come from there at least is that they really come from cultural traditions which are multimodal. So they're about speaking and singing, about relationships to language and country and culture, and they're expressed both in visual forms and in verbal forms. So some of the traditions that the paintings are founded on are about drawing on bodies, drawing on objects, drawing on the ground, and some of these vary as to how long they last. They might be something that's done really quickly as a kind of casual way of talking to somebody by using drawing, or they might be permanent forms of art that appear in galleries on walls and recently, you know, in recent times really have become marketed art in Australia and overseas.
Billy Benn is, in my view, a great living treasure of Central Australia and the deserved heir to his inspiring mentor Albert Namatjira, the first acknowledged artist of this region and the leader of the Hermannsburg School of Watercolour Painting. It goes without saying. As Jenny has said, Billy saw Albert painting, and the idea of painting and of being an artist came to him just as it had done with Gingerali and Munda Walla Walla, and of course Wenton Wabuncha and so many of Albert's direct descendants and other Paynda. The other intriguing thing about this story, that is all in the book, so I won't go on, is that Billy Benn had lessons in watercolour from the Chinese wife of one of the the station owners he was working for, Mr. Mitchell, and that sort of has sort of had perhaps some sort of an impact on his sensibility and way with the brush. So Billy Benn's portraits itself in his country are landscapes of a very particular kind. Like many Indigenous paintings, they tell the story of an artist who has a deep affinity with specific places in his country, but Ben is able to capture their essential geography in pictorial sketches of rare immediacy and verve that enable us to see these places as Ben imagines them in his mind's eye. Not worked over, not overworked, not artificial. Ben's animated and fluid pictures gain conviction from being strongly grounded in his personal observation and lived experience of this terrain. The irregular scraps of board that he first painted, daubed with varnished snatches of low-lying ranges, stretch out provocatively before the viewer and are unlike most other current forms of Indigenous art because of the materiality of them. Boldly signed Billy Benn, they seem to belong to an international tradition of landscape painting and inevitably invite comparison with other great landscape painters throughout the history of art: Chinese, European, New Zealander, Australian and Aboriginal. I think of individual masters whose work is concerned with an unpeopled landscape: Dong Chi Chong, Jane W. Turner, Colin McCann, Sidney Nolan, Fred Williams, Albert Namatjira, Gingerali Munda Walla Walla. He shares with many artists the desire to paint the forces and features of the natural environment and thereby communicate the beauty of truth. For Ben, his spiritual identity and deep-rootedness in country from his Alyarwa father and Karamala is what drives him to paint. He sees with his spirit the bones of place discernible in the curve of a hill, steep rock face or stand of trees. He paints the land before man, that which is Jupurapa, dreaming. It has been my special honour to work with Catherine Peaty, Billy Benn and IAD Press on this important and beautifully designed monograph. I commend this handsome book of Billy's art and life to you all. Thank you.